All right, so welcome back to Zombie SquadCAST. And this episode I have Hillary Zucco. Zucco or Zucco?
Actually, it's Styer-Zucco. I kept my
Styer-Zucco.
yeah,
Styer-Zucco. Okay.
just to throw everybody off.
Oh, that works. That throws everybody off. So
Well, with my IMDb page, it's still Styer.
okay.
Since I've been doing this like 18 some years, so I just.
Oh, you're one of those hyphenated women. I get it.
Eventually, we have so many businesses together that the thought of doing all the legal entities, we're just like, well, we know we're married. The paper says we're married.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Right. So Hillary Styer-Zucco.
Zucco, yeah, like Danny Zucco
Danny
from
Zucco.
The movie that I can't
Yeah.
think at the moment.
And Gus Zucco, your husband, will be joining us momentarily. So yeah, myself, Hillary, Gus, we worked on the infamous film Josh Taylor's Prom Date. How you doing, Gus?
Hey, how are you?
You
Good.
Keep scooching.
I'm just going to turn these phones off so they don't interrupt us.
Yes.
You never know when they're going to ring.
Oh yeah. So Hillary, Gus, and I, we worked on this feature film, Josh Taylor's Prom Day, out there in Gettysburg, PA. I think it was a 2 to 3 week shoot. I was the second AD. Hillary, you were makeup as well as hair and makeup, as well as a number of the establishments, catering and room and lodging. So that's how I know you guys, and so just debriefing the viewers, what few viewers I do have. But if you guys don't mind, go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm Gus Zucco, originally from New York City. I was been training as an actor since 2009. I studied with Howard Meyer. And I also studied with David Deblinger, who was a founding member of the Labyrinth Theater Company in New York City. Did some off-Broadway while I was there. Was fortunate enough to get a manager, and I did a Nickelodeon show called Alien Dawn while I was in New York.
Okay.
In 2012, I moved to Gettysburg, and I started working on a spec reality show. It's called American Museum. It was sort of like the lines of American Pickers, Pawn Stars, that kind of thing. And that's where I met Hillary here, actually. And I kind of found out that in this Middle Atlantic market, there tends to be a lot less competition. And obviously, people know there aren't as many gigs, but there is less competition. And when I got here, I started getting a lot of gigs with the investigation discovery shows that used to be in Silver Spring. I think they have since moved. But I was actually fortunate enough to get my best gig to date here in Martinsburg, West Virginia. In 2015, I was on the AMC Making of the Mob. Played Albert Anastasia on that. That was a cool gig. And I didn't have to pay a manager's fee because I got that myself. So so that was cool. And since I've been down here, we've been focusing a lot on independent projects. Hillary and I became partners with Darren and Kat Archer out of Hagerstown in a company called Infinity 9 Films. We produced a couple of different projects for them. We've done The Quiet Field, The Bad Job. We had a script called Talons of the Phoenix, which is a very ambitious World War II film, which is all of you actors, filmmakers know, on an indie budget that's next to impossible. But we did manage to do a pretty cool teaser trailer on that. And then since 2018, we've been finishing work on a spec show called Bulletproof Cowboys, police drama, in which both Hillary and myself are in. And then we have since doing that, we decided that we would actually turn it into a film. So initially it was slated for like a television show. Now we decided to make it a film, and we actually have we're hoping to get it in some film festivals, and we actually just launched the Viral Film Festival Anybody who's watching can go to our Infinity 9 page on Facebook and check it out. It's the Viral Film Festival, and it's a way for you to submit your film, your indie film, and then, you know, it'll be basically voted on. It's just a pretty cool concept to get us still out there and doing things, you know, during this whole mess that we're in.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty much a summation of some of the things that I've been up to, and some of my background and everything. I guess I'll let the better looking one here talk now.
So I actually started out as a Civil War reenactor, and got interested in that, and my parents did it, and then my mom kept saying, "There's this movie called Gods and Generals. You should submit for it." So I submitted for it, and it was in most civilian scenes. I think the only one I wasn't in was VMI. So you see the trailer for Gods and Generals, you'll see me running down the street with a rifle. Not sure why they handed me a rifle, but they're like, "Go run." So it was a pretty cool film. Met a lot of cool people, still friends with, like Stephen Lang, Jeremy London. Keep in touch with them from time to time. And then what happened then is I met a guy, and he's like, "I'm going to do a production company that kind of caters to all the reenactors that aren't really getting fair treatment on set." So it was called Historical Entertainment, and we did a lot of stuff for History Channel, Smithsonian, Discovery Channel. I have a long list of stuff on IMDb that I can't even remember because it goes back to like 2003.
Oh yeah, back when IMDb started. I remember.
Yeah,
those,
yeah.
I remember those days.
So it's very interesting because then I got kind of switched over to some horror movies. Worked with Eduardo Sanchez, who did Blair Witch. Did a movie Lovely Molly. Also did promo for Walking Dead. So I was one of those zombies in Washington, D.C. People were handing out the flyers, and I was 100% zombie form. So it was a very weird, we met around DuPont Circle about 4 a.m, and it really felt weird because you know you're going to become a zombie and there was nobody on the streets. And then they released you, and they were like, "Well, here's a subway," so you'd get down the steps, but you always had to stay 100% informed. And the people would either go to the other side or like try to get pictures with you. So there's a video somewhere. It was on AMC for a while, but
that's cool.
So yeah, and it's always been I've always watched a lot of really bad horror movies through my life, and
they're the best though.
They are the best.
They are the best. Yeah. That's all I've been watching right now is Shudder and 80s Rewind, and
you gotta check out the Ginger Dead Man.
Ginger Dead Man. Okay.
And there's also Ice Cream Man starring Clint Howard.
I saw that one. I saw that one.
So, but it's so bad, but it's like you keep watching it. I'll tell you what we've been doing. I can tell we both haven't been doing any acting gigs for a while. We just quotes from movies all the time. We actually just started episode 1 of season 1 of Deadwood again.
Yeah.
So it's a great show.
I liked the movie that they just came out with a year or two ago to kind of close out the.
It was one of the. It was interesting. There were some things I liked and some things I didn't like because it was like it was the end. It was the closure, and it was like. But it was interesting how they tied everything in. I'm not sure if I liked how they tied everything in, but at the same time, it was kind of like you got to see a lot of the characters, and unfortunately, one of the characters wasn't.
Some of the actors have passed away since the show stopped. I think.
So they recasted that. They
didn't recast them. Actually,
I don't even know if they
Powers
mentioned him.
Booth, his character cast away. The guy who played the kitchen hand, you hurted me. That guy.
But it's funny because at one of the conventions I had actually met William Sanderson.
Oh yeah, he lives actually in Harrisburg.
He lives not too far away.
He's the one who played Farnham in that.
But he also was in.
He was in the Bob Newhart show.
Gettysburg.
And he was in Gettysburg also. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but unfortunately, this month we were supposed to have a premiere that Gus and myself and Ethan and Alicia were all in called Remnants. and it was supposed to premiere a couple of days after my birthday. That's actually a horror movie, and based on we're ghost hunters, and it's a lot of it was filmed in Gettysburg in West Virginia. Absurd Productions produced it. They've also done a couple other movies. If you look them up, we did a Bigfoot movie. It was
About a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago. It was think of your cheesy horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of wrapped everything up into the whole Bigfoot thing. Bigfoot getting therapy.
Yeah.
It's completely and utterly cheesy, and it was so much fun other than getting eaten alive by mosquitoes.
These guys also did something with Conrad Brooks a few years back. He was one of the last surviving Ed Wood actors.
Mm-hmm.
They did something with him a few years ago. I forgot what that was called though. That was probably maybe the last movie that he did. He passed a few years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, it's so Absurd Productions that has done a bunch of stuff, but it was a lot of fun to work with.
The film that's coming out, that was supposed to come out, it's called Remnants, and we did. We were supposed to have a premiere April 25th, which has now been pushed to July. I think 25th also.
I think so.
Yeah.
In Waynesboro, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So we have a whole movie theater. Should be a lot of fun. And also we have Jim Crutz in it. If you're familiar with Jim Crutz, he was the helicopter zombie from Dawn of the Dead. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, he's actually one of our good friends. In fact, little story, when we got married in 2014, and Jim was supposed to come, but he had a knee replacement, and he was our first gift. And the reason him and I kind of hit it off when we met was he went to get everybody coffee, and he actually messaged me because I was production manager and I was in charge of everything. So he messaged me, he's like, "You want some coffee?" I was like, "Holy crap, somebody asked me if I wanted something." I was like, "Well, I don't really drink coffee, I like tea." So, and then we just started hitting it off and talking about movies, and he's like, "How are you in Gettysburg doing movies and stuff?"
When I first met Hillary and she told me she did acting, I was like, "Really? In here?"
So
I didn't think anybody outside of LA or New York,
Right.
I worked on two episodes of Veep.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my one scene got cut. I was Governor Chung's staffer, and then you can kind of see me walking past as a hotel patron, and then Gus also actually.
I was in 2 episodes of Veep.
So, yeah, and we also actually the ID channel stuff he was saying about. We've kind of worked on the same show, but not at the same time. So there was times that his call time and my call time were different. So I'd be driving home and he'd be driving to set. And then actually one episode, what was it called?
The one where I killed your brother.
Yeah, he actually killed my brother in the show, and our daughter was the onlooker.
I think it was the Nightmare Next Door.
Nightmare
Next Door. Yeah. I've done quite a bit of Sirens episodes as a detective, as a cop, something of that nature. Probably 20 to anywhere, maybe even more, like 30 to 40 episodes of different ID crime shows. It's usually a law enforcement role.
Oh yeah, I end up actually get to play SWAT, which was kind of exciting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I played a doctor one time.
I want to get him a shirt. I'm not a doctor, but I played one on TV.
I played one on TV.
Well, it's funny because the one episode was it was about kidnapping, and our daughter was a friend of the girl that was kidnapped, and the girl that was kidnapped in the show was our daughter's name, Alicia. But I played SWAT for that, and it was kind of a weird, there was a few surreal moments because it was like, wow, and it was about this. They're about the same age too, and but yeah, it was a lot of fun in a neighborhood. You jump out of a black car all in SWAT, and not everybody knew what was going on.
Yeah. There's been a couple of those crime recre shoots where you had our fake cop car with the cherries lit up and other people walking around like, "I need your help," and we're not real cops, and then they would get mad. They would get mad, and then there's been a couple instances like that, and I guess it can be confusing, and it can turn into an issue. I think there was a couple of times on Josh Taylor's prom date. I was, as you guys know, I was second AD,
Yeah.
but I think there was at a couple of locations people were walking by like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of what set, regardless of what my role on set is, I'll just tell everybody it's a mayonnaise commercial. And that way you're not going to get stupid questions.
Yeah.
Their interest has dropped and they just keep on walking.
That's a good idea.
That is.
It's you got people dressed up like aliens, SWAT, soldiers, helicopters flying over. It's like, it's a mayonnaise commercial.
Oh.
And they just walk away.
I just remember when we all jumped out of the car and ran guns up to the house. People were like,
I know you're hiding the mayonnaise in there somewhere.
Yeah. Only one time did someone call bullshit, and it was because we were shooting across the street from a firehouse, and some guy walked by and asked, and I told him mayonnaise commercial, and like maybe 15 minutes later he pops back up and he goes, I think you're full of shit. And I'm like, and then I see on his shirt it was, whatever, it was Delaware. We were shooting in Delaware, so it was like Wilmington FD or WFD, whatever the fire department was, right? And I was like, well, he's a firefighter.
yeah.
So I told him, okay, it's a short film. It's about this, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, mayonnaise commercial usually works. And another trick is what you'll notice is if you're like shooting on a street, right? And so a cool trick that I've seen a couple of DPs do is they'll aim the camera in the opposite way. So if the scene we're shooting is this way, they'll aim the camera this way, because you have a lot of slick pedestrians that kind of know production. So they'll try to get themselves in front of the camera, and then so the DP will aim the camera this way, and then when the AD was like, all right, this picture's up, the DP will just do a 180 with the camera.
That's awesome.
Picture's up, and your set is clear.
Yep.
Except for how you want your set, and just do a 180 of the camera, and everybody back there is like, oh shit, he got us or whatever. But a couple of slick little tricks to pull off on set. Mayonnaise commercial works every time.
Yeah, I do a lot of military stuff. So like we did a thing for the History Channel, the military channel called Triggers. Couldn't really get away with that one. So I had to call the police going, we're really shooting a lot of big weapons today at a private home, just to let you know, like, my one role was a Russian sniper. So I got to shoot a PPSH, and there's a lot of really loud noise. And they're like, oh, cool, can we come out and check it out? But it's always good to warn anybody in the area, because I'm used to doing a lot of historical stuff like cannons and stuff. Although I guess it could be still a mayonnaise commercial.
Sure.
Because you never know.
Anything could be a mayonnaise commercial.
Anything could be a mayonnaise commercial. You got SWAT swinging in trying to stop a terrorist attack, and really just someone stole their can of mayonnaise because they wanted.
Oh, that's right. You worked on Blacklist too.
Yeah.
He worked on an episode of Blacklist.
On the first episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Blacklist, yeah. Pretty good show. I mean, I'm a big James Spader fan, so anything that he does.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm not caught up with the show. I think, I don't want to diss, stuff we worked on, but like, when is it going to end? When is it going to come to a close? But so far, like what I've seen so far, the show's, entertaining, plot twists left and right, but I'm just not caught up. But, yeah, I mean, that's, a whole plethora of, work and experience. With that said, we kind of tapped into a little bit about how you mentioned the virtual film fest and things.
Virtual film fest, yeah.
Yeah. How would you say right now you two have been, we'll start off, professionally impacted by the whole quarantine, shelter in place, current state of affairs?
Well, I would say, for starters, we were supposed to have that premiere on the 25th, and that was going to be like the springboard to lead to a lot of other festivals and get a lot of publicity. And unfortunately, that's just been,
as well as a lot of the conventions that we were planning to attend, just to promote the movie.
All those things have been derailed for now. I mean, we're hopeful that I think the Carolina Fear Fest, I believe, think it's still slated. That hasn't, I don't believe, been canceled yet. You know, that's
Also, Scares That Cares.
Scares That Cares hasn't been canceled yet. That's,
And I'm actually a PA rep for them. They're actually a really cool organization. They do a lot of charity for, they pick 3 people each year. And then you got a lot of stars like Kane Hodder, Bill Moseley, Sid Haig was actually a big part of starting the whole Scares That Cares. And
Sid Haig goes way back. He was the clown. He was the clown in the Rob Zombie movies, right?
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the nicest guys you could ever meet.
Yeah. I've seen a number of, like, you know, Shudder documentaries and like Shudder original documentaries of him talking, and I mean, he passed away, I think, right after the 3rd Devil Rejects movie.
It was like right after that, because I'm actually was you know, got to meet him a few times, and just one of the nicest guys. I mean, you know, we know what it's like at conventions, and you bought a picture, and he's like, no, here's another one, and here's one for your, you know, and he was just a real big active role. Scares That Cares actually kind of does. One person has a breast cancer, a childhood illness, and then a burn victim. So each year, what they try to do is and nobody, myself, anybody, Joe Ripple, no one gets any money for this. It's all volunteer work. So everything that we do is goes back to them. So, and we have a lot of like, you know, a lot of horror actors and that have just really come to help. And like Kane Hodder, he actually is a burn victim.
Kane Hodder is, right?
Yeah. And so I'm not trying to think of who else. Doug Jones.
Who was the guy that was in The Shape of Water?
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones.
Yeah, one of the nicest guys you could meet. There's a lot of support in the community, the acting community, for this organization.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we get to go to it this year.
That's awesome. What was the name of that again?
It's Scares That Cares.
Scares to Cares, yeah.
Scares That Cares, yeah.
Scares That Cares.
And I can send you the link to that and some other stuff if you want to.
Yeah, socials, all the socials links and plugs are in the description below. That's great. How I know you guys are not only in production. I know you guys are business owners and property owners as well. I mean, you want to delve into how?
Yeah, we. Man, that's a tough one. We own the Inn at Lincoln Square, and it's a very small. It's like a boutique, right in the center of town. Great location. It's 5 rooms. We were on our way to having our best year ever. 2020 was. We were like I don't know, like 50, 60 reservations ahead of where we were last year until the whole pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've suffered over 70 cancellations. We've pretty much the business has come to a grinding halt. You know, obviously we lost all of April. Pretty much going to lose all of May. We'll see what things are in June. You know, and we were kind of forced to adopt a different policy in that cancellations, you know, in order to stay solvent, the best we can do at this point is give you a voucher for future stay, give you a voucher towards a future stay. You know, we've extended that into 2022. So, you know, if you come later this year, if you want to come next year, even the following year, you know, because if everybody, you know, had their hands out at once to get refunds, there's no way that would just basically sink us. So, you know, we've reached out we've reached out to our bank for some assistance, and they've done a forbearance for a couple of months for our mortgage, which helps. And of course, you know, we've applied for the aid that's out there, but you know, it stinks, you know. But I have to say, I think that ultimately our business, when things do get back to quote unquote normal, I think our business will be okay. But the businesses I really fear for are the ones that involve close social contact. Like, let's just say, I don't know, June 1st, everybody says, all right, safe to go out in public again, all the restrictions. I really find it hard to believe that a lot of people are going to be comfortable going to crowded bars, crowded restaurants, crowded theaters, crowded sporting events.
Yeah.
I was just reading an article that Disney, Bob Iger, who had retired, he's come back now. I mean, Disney is fighting for its life now. That's amazing. That's insane. They're losing over $30 million a day.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is that, talk about a business that needs people close together. We just, we went to Disney last fall, and you're just, that's like Sardine City.
Oh, yeah.
Well, exactly. Well, the first thing that pops in my mind, because I do a lot of live streaming and AV work for events.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the wall, you'll see, maximum occupancy, 200 people.
Yeah.
It might get turned into a regulation, even when the floodgates open, even when the quarantine is lifted. It might go into regulation that everybody splits that number in half.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe at your restaurant, because I know you guys have a restaurant that's a part of the inn, right?
Yeah, it's actually right down the street from
Right down the street.
Yeah, well, we kind of like use them together,
Mm-hmm.
so all our guests get a discount for eating there.
Yeah, and I'm sure on the wall you have max occupancy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
150. That might have to get split in half, 75, and that might be the way life is for the next
it might be
10, 15 years.
Something else. I was talking to my brother last night, and he's like a real. He reads like 50 science articles a week. He's
Mm-hmm.
just really into that stuff. And but one of the things that may happen is because I was saying how realistically is it going to be that say the doors open, okay, everybody can go back out. Well, the only thing I think that would make people feel safe is masks. Well, safer. If everybody's wearing masks, because then you're thinking to yourself, all right, well, I've got a mask on. This guy's got a mask on. If this guy's spitting as he's talking, I'm not going to get it in my eyeball.
Yeah.
Right.
I think something like that will give people a lot more ease as far as transitioning back into the normal swing of things. The article I was reading about Disney was talking about possibly testing people's temperatures before going into the park.
And you raise a good point, because me and some colleagues are thinking, we figured out a way to make a supervillain show just like the ID shows, like the crime shows. So I'm editing the second seasons of these 2 crime shows that you would see on ID, but they're set in the DC universe, Marvel universe, and I'll send you guys the links to that later on. But the crew is so small with this kind of production that I had, that if I was to pitch it to a network, to one of the labels, what have you, the only extra crew member, if we wanted to shoot now, the only extra crew member they might have to hire is a registered nurse with that thermometer, with that forehead thermometer.
Yeah.
Because really all I need is a sound guy, a DP, maybe a PA to help with the green screen, and then everything else is done with stock footage and found footage, and then maybe 3 actors in front of the green screen.
Yeah.
And the voiceover actors can do it remotely. So really, I only need a cast and crew of no more than 8 at the most. So a 9th member would be a nurse with a thermometer. And you're right. The TSA needs to get registered nurses there with the thermometers. But back to like the space, how we're spacing each other, because a mask is one thing.
Yeah.
But I think, with the social distancing, they can start implementing that, forcing us to do it in such a way. For example, airplanes, they take out every other row.
Oh, yeah.
Buses, they take out every other row. Yeah. They're going to take a hit, not only on their prices, but on their sales.
Oh, for sure.
But if they still want to maintain a business, the inn at Lincoln Square just has to split its maximum capacity number in half. The plane's just going to gut out. And so it's like you're flying coach, but really it's first class now.
Yeah.
And you wonder, how is that going to affect pricing? Because you figure a plane that used to carry 100 people now carries 50.
50.
Everybody's got a lot more leg room, but then obviously the airplane, I mean, the airline's going to have to change the pricing.
So, I mean, what's a good business tactic? They got to double their price to make up for the loss during the quarantine, plus make up for the amount of seats on the plane, or do they keep the prices the same to keep a business running? Or I don't know business. You guys probably have a better idea on sales and overhead and ROI and things of that nature. But
well, see, for us, we only have 5 rooms. So we have 3 suites and 2 townhouses. The suites sleep 5 to 6, so it's basically a family. They have 2 separate entrances.
Mm-hmm.
The townhouses, but the suites have an entire floor all on their own.
Yeah, there's a first, second, and third.
And it only is for 2 people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, but like talking about social distancing, think about ball games, because we actually, before this all went down, got to get in 2 spring games in Tampa.
Yeah, we were in Tampa about 10 days before the insanity started. We caught 2 Yankee games, 2 spring training games. It's funny, something I've always wanted to do, and now it looks like that might be the only baseball that happens this year. I don't know. I hope not.
But like, how would you do seating? Because that's
exactly.
Really,
for sure. I mean, even if I'm hopeful the season will start, but who's going to go to games? Who's going to feel comfortable? What are you going to have? Like, maybe like 1-2 fans per row. So instead of 30,000 people, you'll have 1,000 people.
Hey, start ripping up every other chair.
Yeah.
And you can like back to the airplane, because I always fly American, so it's always 3 seats, 3 seats, 3 seats, 3 seats. Well, you take out 2, then you take out the middle one, then you take out the window and the aisle. So you got a middle one, and then 2, and then 1, and then 2.
Yeah.
So they could do that with the ball games, where they take out in this row, they take out all the odd seats, and then this row they take out all the even seats, and then back and forth. So everything's kind of like you're not right behind someone. If you understand what I'm talking about, you're not right behind or in front of somebody. And
a lot of stuff is going to change. It's really
like,
fascinating.
Think about the things that you touch, and everybody touches those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you touch face. Or,
even before, there was always hand sanitizer stations.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now they just got to double the hand sanitizer stations.
You're gonna probably see people. Yeah, people wearing masks for a long time.
Yeah.
Absolutely doubling up on the hand sanitizers. But there's certainly going to be, there are certainly going to be industries that are hit harder than others. Any play. Like I was just reading also that AMC is about to declare bankruptcy. Theaters.
The theaters.
Yeah, AMC theaters. Yeah.
Well, we've already watched 2 movies that were supposed to be in theaters here.
Well, now they're going direct to streaming. They're bypassing theater releases altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think some of that is some of these things that are happening are going to kind of start a new trend.
They're going to continue. Yeah.
Because you think you have a family of kids and there's a new movie coming out. How much is it at a movie theater, or you can watch it at home?
Yeah, so the one-time cost of a $2,000 home entertainment center.
Oh yeah.
And then it's just, it could still be, what is it, $10 on demand, $15 on demand to get Frozen 2, or Frozen 2, they just threw it on Disney Plus right away.
Yep.
And I got that early bird package with Disney Plus,
So did we.
but now, it's probably what, $100 a year. I got it for, I think, the $50 or $60 for the year.
I don't even,
we got it.
Yeah,
I think you got it. If you got it like the early bird one, I think it was the 60 for the first year. But
one thing that's kind of funny that I wanted to talk about is I just find it incredibly ironic. Prior to all this happening, we've been hearing for years and years about how we've become detached as a society. People do nothing but stare at their phones, and we need to get out in the world and see people and go to places, and meet people and intermingle into the world. everybody's just preoccupied with social media, their phones, their internet. Now that's all we have.
Oh yeah.
Now imagine if we didn't have these things now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just ironic, I think, because you always see, you know, get those kids off these damn computers. Get these kids stop looking at their damn phones. There's a world out there. They should play, meet, have friends, go out, socialize.
Well, our youngest is 14 and ninth grade, and he, you know, a lot of his classes are on Zoom as well.
Yeah.
Then he calls it his lunch Zoom with all his friends. And you know, and right now he was supposed to actually get into starting mountain biking.
Yeah.
And
we also were sending him. He was going to take a trip to France next year, but we canned that. We just felt that we didn't feel safe about it. You know?
No, absolutely. No, I mean, you're not wrong with that one at all.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I mean, you know, I live in an area where I can still go for runs. And so depending on your neighborhood, you could still go mountain biking to a sense, but not, you know, taking a drive to that known spot for mountain biking and do, you know, the 5 mile downhill. But luckily we still have, you know, the opportunities to mountain bike here or jog here or, you know, in my area, there's a couple of what you picnic areas or like little social gathering kind of parks, if you will. And there's still maybe 10 or 15 people there, and they're distanced, but it's not the 50 people that would go there every Saturday and Sunday, you know.
We've been taking walks. Alicia and I actually used to race mountain biking competitively years ago. So, I mean, we can ride around the streets here, but it's not quite the same. But we take walks at night. They've been doing a lot of catch. And then to get past our baseball thing, we've been watching on MLB a lot of the games. They're showing like all these old games.
They're showing the old games. They're showing.
They're.
They've been showing. My God, they've been showing World Series games since the '60s. They're running out of content. I think they've showed Bull Durham like 100 times.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
It feels like, at least when you're listening to a game, even though it might have been the game in '82 or like, you know, they did the home run derby.
Yeah, they're showing some of those.
It's like you hear it. It's like, well, it's kind of one of those little moments of like, I hear it. I know it may not be the current game, but it's like a little piece of like.
It's still kind of like a taste of it and keeps you. I mean, in my opinion, I was never really into sports, and I brought this up before. I was never really into sports because it's the same thing over and over again. Like somebody's going to win. It's a baseball game. I get it. I like going to baseball games. Don't like watching them. I think NFL on TV is probably the most entertaining and engaging sport. But, you know, that's why film and TV was always more engaging to me, because it was something different. You know, this movie might end differently. This movie might have a bad ending, but then the next one after that has a good ending. Different characters, one's sci-fi, one's horror, one's a Western, one's action, one takes place 100 years ago, one takes place 100 years in the future. It's always something different, whereas I've seen a basketball game. I don't need to watch a basketball game again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've not really been in basketball, but baseball, I kind of have a soft spot because my grandfather was actually a left-handed pitcher, asked to play for a farm team years and years ago. Asked to play for the Suns, and he's a left-handed pitcher. I played softball as a left-handed pitcher, you know, and I hit left-handed. And so then I met him, and he's a big Yankees fan.
Yeah, my earliest childhood recollection of anything was me and my brother. My parents took us to the old Yankee Stadium where Mickey and Babe and DiMaggio played on Bat Day. That's the thing I can remember more than before I can remember anything else.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
Me,
I'm a casual sports fan except for baseball. Like I follow football every season, and even being a native New Yorker, I was happy to see the Giants win the Super Bowls, but I was never like one of these people that lived and died by what the Giants did. You know, thank God I didn't like the Jets. But the Yankees, it's just like a thing. It's, yeah, I'm just like and this kind of really sucks for me because April is so awesome. I'm always looking forward after the winter, looking forward to baseball season starting. And, you know, it's just one of those things that's missing now for the first time ever, you know, that I can
we
remember.
did get to 2 spring games.
Oh, yeah, we got to those games.
Which we both actually caught a ball.
Yeah, that was cool.
So,
that's cool. Yeah. You know, for me, it was always Cal Ripken. Cal Ripken to me is always going to be, you know, the god in general of baseball, in my mind, you know, the Iron Man. So as a Marylander, and kind of like from the DMV, I was always a Redskins, Bullets, now Wizards, Caps fan, but it was always Orioles. And so, I mean, of course, I'm going to root for the Ravens. Of course, I'm going to root for the Nationals. But for me, it was always O's. And for me, you know, it was always Cal Ripken was the one and all, top dog for me. I was really excited when the Caps won the Stanley Cup, I think 2 years ago, 1 year ago. I didn't watch the playoffs. I didn't watch any of it because hockey to me is, with the exception of maybe catching a good fight, hockey is just as boring as lacrosse and soccer to me. I think soccer's boring. You know, I just I just like to see something I haven't seen before. That's why I always got into film and TV. Is that you know, and I did sports. I was a pretty good baseball player when I was a kid and a decent basketball player, but I kind of fell out of it and I got more into arts. But I think, you know, to me, the imaginative ability, if there is such thing as magic, in real mystical magic in this world, it is the art of filmmaking.
Oh yeah.
Because you could ask some people, is Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Princess Leia, are they real people? And in a sense, they are.
Oh yeah.
Is Captain America and the Incredible Hulk, is Batman and Superman, do they exist? They do exist. You know, obviously not in our real world, but they do exist because of that magic of filmmaking. And that's why I always veered towards that. What is capable? What is possible? You know, again, with Star Trek, if it wasn't for Star Trek, I don't think we'd have cell phones. Right? You remember the original Captain Kirk?
I have one.
I bought him one of those.
She got
little
one
things
for me a few years ago. It's really
and we have that now. So
and it's funny you say that because you know, talking about you know, everybody's been talking about essential workers, and I get essential workers, nurses. You know, like my daughter's a vet tech. Her boyfriend's an electrician. Those are all very essential, and it's kind of like almost to me, and Gus and I've talked about it. It's like, and I think they're essential and they're very important. There's a lot of other people, you know, police and fire, but you know, the people that are at home, what are they doing right now?
Yeah, they're
watching
Netflix.
They're watching Netflix.
And watching Disney
Plus, you know, Hulu
and it's like,
all that. You know, if it wasn't for that, I mean, as much as people are going out of their minds, imagine how much worse it would be if you didn't have any of those things, you know. So the arts is absolutely, you know, the arts is a vital part to our existence, you know, to who we are as people. And it is funny how not everybody recognizes that, you know. But it's just so vital to our existence, to our, you know, to our culture.
I mean, just dealing with being at home and you know, we have not been going anywhere. So I'll take some time. Like I just finished for Lost in Space season 1 and season 2. And it just kind of takes you out of where you're at the time, and you know, you just focus on what's happening there.
And you chose you chose sci-fi.
Oh, I love sci-fi.
Yeah,
I love horror, sci-fi.
You know, one thing she is watching a lot is Chicago Med. And I said to her, I said, I don't know how you can watch a hospital drama.
Well, I'll tell you one reason why is years ago I worked on a movie called Elfman. And Morelli Taylor actually was one of the actors in it, and I did wardrobe for the movie. It was a pretty cool movie. Wee Man, Jeffrey Combs, a bunch of trying to think of who else was in it.
What's his name's brother?
Mackenzie
Mackenzie
Aston.
Aston.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sean
I've
Astin's
met a
wife.
lot of cool
Okay.
actors. And then now her husband, who plays Ethan Choi on Chicago Med.
Brian T.
Yeah, and Brian T. He also was in Fast and the Furious, Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because when we met him, the first thing my son asked is, "Where's your car?" from Fast and Furious.
Right.
But it's really cool because we've kept in I've kept in contact with him and seeing how everybody's doing and stuff. And so, and another friend of mine actually was in one of the episodes that they had the SWAT team that they were abducted. So it's kind of cool because and I guess I have some medical background. I went to school for mental health. So, and I was worked in that for a while. And so it's one of those things with a medical background, you watch some of these shows and you're like, yeah, that totally would never happen.
Right.
But I like watching stuff that kind of takes your mind off of the current situation.
Yeah. I pick up on little things like that in like military shows and cops.
Oh yeah.
And I see, maybe it was due to editing. Somebody had an extra bullet, or somebody didn't have to rack their shotgun, but they were able to pull off. Like little small details like that.
We watched a thing about Gettysburg, and I've worked so long in that time period and did wardrobe and just checking everything, make sure and I know a lot about the Civil War. And him and I watched the same show, and he was like, "Oh, it was great," and I was like, "No, it was horrible.
I thought it was
this
terrific.
jacket was wrong, and that was wrong, and why did they do that?" And it's just like. So I try really hard to kind of watch anything like that and just say I'm watching it for the entertainment value.
Mm-hmm.
But like even like the Gangs of New York, years ago I watched that and I was like, no.
That hat is wrong.
No,
wrong.
He'd never be wearing a shirt like that.
But I really do think it's funny. In high school, going back a few years, I was president of the art club, and I loved art. And I auditioned for Annie the musical my senior year, and I was in the special choir doing whole jazz hands and everything. And I wouldn't do it. I wanted to be crew.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny because I did crew in the play, and I did all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I did Gods and Generals. And all of a sudden, I'm on the other side of the camera. And I'm on either side of the camera for different productions, but it's funny because some of the roles I've had, it's like one was Amish Haunting.
Mm-hmm.
In the entire show, I did not speak English. I spoke Pennsylvania Dutch,
mm-hmm.
and had to have really nasty green teeth and yellow contacts. And it was like there were times going, wow, like I think it was 2 a.m, and I was filming a certain scene. I had to stick my hand in a pie and go after my son with a knife, and I'm just like, I can do this. But I never thought I would actually get into acting. I mean, it wasn't something that like I thought. I wanted to do graphic design, computer animation, and all that stuff. So it's very interesting how I came to be where I'm at, and I've been doing it almost 18 years now. But it's fun to be on either side of the camera. I've been line producer, production coordinator, hair, makeup, wardrobe. I don't even know what else I've done. But I've had some really interesting roles, such as the Amish thing.
Mm-hmm.
Amish clothing is very comfortable, just for the record.
Apparently, yeah.
But no, the thing we were talking about, Bulletproof Cowboys. I actually play his wife in the show. And we
have our names. I'm Gus, and she's Hillary.
And I'm very annoying,
and you play each other's spouses.
Yeah.
So how did you prepare for that role?
Well, I used to watch Desperate Housewives.
Method acting, right?
Yeah. No, because I'm totally not the town bike. In the show, I'm definitely.
She gets around.
I get around.
That's cool. Great.
So, but it's fun I found to do a lot of roles that are totally not me.
Well, yeah, and I so to touch upon your background and where your beginnings is, I went to Towson University, graduated with a bachelor's in film and TV production. So I started off in production. I've been doing crew work. I've been full-time freelance for 10 years, but I've been doing maybe crew work generally for 15. Started off at Discovery Channel, left there, bounced around some different states, became full-time freelance, independent contractor, that sort of deal. But I chose to enlist in the National Guard, the DC Army National Guard. Went to basic MP school, came back, did my 1 week in a month sort of deal. Still doing crew work, full-time freelance. And some people said, you should act. You lost so much weight from, basic, you should do this, that, and the other thing. And I was still, I don't really know acting, blah, 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 blah. But then I deployed to Kuwait in 2015 and still, and somebody else said, well, I moved a colleague of mine moved to Albuquerque. I think he got an acting job on the show Priest on AMC, and then the Independence Day sequel. And I said, all right, I'm gonna pull the trigger, and I can play law enforcement and military roles. And so I started reaching out to different connections while I was in Kuwait. Got back from Kuwait, started applying to all these acting gigs as cop this, detective that, soldier this, officer that, blah, 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 blah. And just kicked it off from there. And so I basically, in an effort to fill in the blank spots of the schedule, still trying to do crew, still trying to build my brand.
Right.
But also, stay on set, because as an actor, I can study directors.
Oh, yeah.
But as an actor, I'm an experienced director, experienced AD, experienced videographer, not necessarily a DP, because I don't know the science. I never really got into the DPing of, light and colors and that sort of thing. But, being a camera op and a sound op, so I'm familiar with what they're going to do to me as an actor. So, I was a much more experienced actor in the sense of knowing how a set and crew runs it. But also I was studying other directors, and then I would do a music video, or I would be an AD, like on Josh Taylor's Prom Date. I was able to stagger this or kind of find a hack there.
Yeah.
Because I've been an actor, I've done plenty of crew work, but I've done plenty. By that time, when we were working together on Josh Taylor's, I had done 2 to 3 years of acting already, and so I know how much of a pain in the dick it is for actors to sit in holding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So I remember I think I sent your daughter out to hang out with them, and or I would hang out with them and tell a few jokes. I wasn't giving everybody their paperwork right away. Because now they're bored. So I would hold off on giving their paperwork. Might do a scene. Oh, I'm all out of jokes. Let me give them their paperwork. Hey guys, fill this out until we shoot next. And then they're done. I collect the paperwork. It's like these little things to just keep them occupied and not keep them bored. Because I've been an actor on a set, one of these ID shows, on a set for 12 straight hours, and they never shot me.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We've been there too.
Yeah.
We years ago, what was it? The Men Who Built America. I actually was
The Men Who Built America. Yeah.
Assistant casting for them, and they're like, "Oh, come down, we'll wardrobe you, and you have a scene." And last minute they decided not to use me. So I sat there all day playing Angry Birds. And I kept saying, because I had so much experience doing crew, and I ran productions, and I'm just like, give me something to do, anything. Do you need help with wardrobe? Do you need something? And they were like, no, we're fine. So I sat there until they released me. And it's the hardest thing when you've been doing crew, because like I said, I've been doing a lot of the crew stuff when we first started. down to call sheets and scheduling and catering. I mean, and I was doing some of that for that movie. So you kind of like have an idea of what needs done, and when you're on a set and you're seeing things that aren't quite getting done, and you're just kind of like, oh, I hope they realize what's happening. It's very interesting when you're not just versed in acting and you can kind of jump across to either side. I know there was one movie we're supposed to film this spring. I'm not sure where we're at with everything that's going on. Wow, my brain.
Devil's Den.
The Devil's Den. And it was going to be such a fun role for me because I got to play a crazy mom of this family, and we were also cannibals.
Okay.
So I got to really it was the role, and I got to read the script, and they're like, you're going to have a lot of fun with this.
Could have been the role of a lifetime.
Oh yeah.
But we're all going to get the role of a lifetime because, I mean, again, I've had this conversation a number of times on this show. I mean, if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be.
Oh yeah.
And, you guys are obviously blessed with a million opportunities you've already had, which has your experience to better your opportunities in the future. That this one thing, hey, it might just get postponed. It's probably not.
Oh yeah.
It might get postponed and you're still going to get it.
I'm not sure where that's going to go.
Yeah. But you're probably going to get 2 more better gigs down the line.
Yeah. The cool thing about it is I found the whole production acting network is so smaller than what you think.
Yeah, the world.
It's like when you're watching a show and you're like, why does that person look familiar?
The community's a lot smaller.
And it's like, oh, because I know his wife, and they got married after I worked with her, and it's like, and then I actually had a music video I did for a band, and somebody contacted me that I worked with before, and they're like, do you know any makeup artists that can go up to Brooklyn? And I'm like, well, I could. And we are supposed to my daughter and I are supposed to go see that show in Lancaster. Well, it's like, do we go see the show or do we go get this gig? So we drove up to Brooklyn and we met the band. I did the makeup for the music video. Now they're like family. So for a long time when they were touring, they'd stop by and stay here. So it's such a cool, and then I met another band through them, and then another, bunch of people, like the photographer that like went to Europe and was with another band. It's a pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like a
lot of great people.
A lot of networking.
Yeah, networking for sure. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a very interesting shoot. The band was called Famous Last Words, and the show must go on. And then they've done a bunch of other.
Yeah, I did that one
other
chamber
things.
video.
They're from Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to touch upon what Gus was saying earlier, we, for, maybe the last 10, 15 years, we were always, stuck on our phones or stuck on Netflix, stuck on a computer, stuck on Facebook and YouTube. And now it's, furthered with Hulu, Netflix, Prime Video, all the other, maybe even free apps too. And it has been a blessing. It is a blessing that we have that to satisfy us in our need of being quarantined and shut in. I've even had people some years ago saying that there's nothing on Netflix, and even then I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's a million different freaking things on Netflix right now, and if you never even thought of watching it, you just click it and watch it. And my mother, very particular, very, very stingy and particular about what she's going to stream on Netflix. But me, it's like, I'll give the first episode or I'll give the first 10 minutes a try. And usually then I'm stuck. And then I'm like, well, this is not the greatest thing, but I got to finish it now.
We've been there.
And so there is so much that we are still not going to finish everything that's out there after the quarantine's lifted. And they have so much in production. So there's this, so someone was like, what if they run out of stuff what if they run out of productions? Well, maybe theatrically, the huge budgeted stuff that they put in the theater, they are probably going to run out. But not on digital, not on demand.
Oh no!
No, man, it'll take me years to watch.
With Netflix, I mean, I've actually, I like to go in the obscure movies, so I have found so many cool foreign films. You know, and it's just like, I can't even think of them any top of my head, but you start watching them and they're like, yeah, they're subtitled, but it's just like, and then you find that one, and then they suggest this one for you, and I'm like, there's been a few really crappy ones.
Oh, sure.
My son and I watched one, and we watched to the end, and we're just like, wow, what did we just watch?
Right, yeah.
But you had to watch it. You had to like, well, maybe something will change, but no, it was bad. I don't even know the name of it.
The show we watched a few days ago, it was on Sci-Fi. I hadn't seen that. Happy.
Oh,
Happy?
Yeah.
One with the little thing flying around and the guy.
Yep.
That guy's a hell of an actor.
Oh yeah.
He is.
I was just, it's funny because initially I wasn't sure that I was really interested in watching it, but I was just drawn in by his performance and how difficult it is to act with something imaginary, you know, like right in front of you that. It was, his performance was really impressive, I thought.
I think we watched 2 episodes of it.
I mean, that guy's really good. He was, who was he? He was a Stabler on SVU.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why he looks familiar. Jeez.
What's his name?
Wow.
Christopher Maloney. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Maloney. Yeah. So, so I watched the first season of this, and yeah, he is freaking hilarious in that show.
Yeah.
But, and it's fun.
That's why he looked so familiar, and I couldn't place him.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's letting his crazy hair grow out, so that's probably why he looks very different. But because usually Bruce Willis is it like Gus does.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, that was a really cool show, and it's just so dark and gritty and nasty, like a Tarantino movie.
They have the unicorn
with a floating unicorn dragon or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a kid's imaginary toy. It's such a great kind of mix of two dynamics.
Yeah.
So I guess we touched on my third point. What are you guys watching? But well, I guess we'll jump to my fourth point, which is what would you say your next agenda, next goal or set of goals, and we probably got twice as many because there's 2 of you. Next set of plans, your next plan or set of plans, but generally your next agenda, I'd say for the next month or 2.
Well, I decided to go back to school. So I'm in the semester 2 of graphic design.
Okay.
I'm taking art appreciation, and it's a lot to soak in. I did the first test, but it's a lot of really cool art. So I'm kind of taking it little piece by piece because it is an online program. So I'm excited about getting into the Photoshop, the design part, and all that stuff. I originally, that was major 2 in my college career. My first one was computer programming, then I went to graphics. And then I went into mental health. So I have a degree in mental health, which actually works amazingly well from a crew standpoint, as well as an acting standpoint, to kind of evaluate your role. The other one is I have a couple shorts that we've written that I'd like to kind of eventually, and our son actually is the worst director in the world. He had to do a project for school when he was the director, and we were like helping him and it was for lightsabers.
He was very demanding.
He was the most demanding director the entire time of my acting career. So it was about Ultra Sabers, and he had everything just so, and he edited it for school, and it turned out pretty well.
It was good, actually. Yeah, it turned out well.
We were out in our yard in the middle of the night, freezing cold, with lights and smoke machine, and he was calling out shots. He's 14, so I'm hoping we can get him to help us, because he actually has a kind of a cool eye for it, and it's a different perspective that I think would work really well for what we want to do.
Yeah, directing is definitely, you know, a tricky. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And as an AD, I've found that, you know, I have a unique position to, you know, help along a director, because it's a tough task.
Yeah.
Because as a director, you are kind of wearing a whole slew of multiple hats at the same time as the director.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Gus, what's next on the plate for you?
You know, I really would like to write something. I actually, it's kind of funny. I have this idea for, and I've written a few monologues. See, the interesting thing is the plight of the indie filmmaker is that a lot of times, like actually, it's funny, we're talking about, you know, a production company, Infinity 9, and Darren Archer is our partner. He's a really good writer, and he writes a lot of stuff that's he's. It's funny. I've told him once. I said, you know, you should just sell these scripts to Hollywood, man, because you just can't pull these scripts off with like $1,000 budget, you know. And it's so the thing about it is, it's fascinated me that some of the most compelling pieces of cinema are done like 12 Angry Men. Have you ever seen the original classic 12 Angry Men?
Oh, yeah.
12 guys in a room, but it keeps your interest for 2 hours. And it's amazing when the writing is so compelling like that. And, you know, I have an idea about something that's kind of near and dear to me, basically mental illness, and the character's name is Walter. And he's basically broken down and withdrawn from society, and he's locked in a room with his roommate, and his roommate is named Sid. It's almost like waiting for your dough, something like that. But I've written some monologues where he questions why he was born, why he was created, and it's something that I would like to write. And I don't. The only thing is, I don't know whether it's going to be 10 minutes, you know, 20 minutes, or 2 hours. I don't know. But it's just something that I think could be really powerful, and if done correctly, you know, it could really help. It's something that I really feel like the character I was. It's something like I was born to play, almost like Sling Blade, you know, almost like Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh yeah.
Now, that obviously that's another movie. I mean, that obviously had a big budget, but I mean that's because they had, you know, John Ritter, but if you look at that movie had a handful of actors, and it was just shot in a few simple locations: a dollar store, a couple of houses, a church, you know, a river. There was the French fry scene at the beginning. You know, that's something that you know, if somebody like me or you or one of us had written that, we could have filmed it with on a very, very low budget. You know, I mean, the most important thing is obviously sound and lighting and everything. But
what was the one we watched with? It was 3 people.
One False Move.
No, Buffalo.
Oh yeah, American Buffalo by David Mamet.
Yeah.
That's thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, we just it's funny because my background was in theater, and I had heard about that. That's one Mamet play I'd never read. I'd read some of his others, but a few months ago we caught that on Netflix, actually, or Amazon Prime.
No, we had to watch it a couple times and have full on discussions.
It's just
about
amazing. It's just Dustin Hoffman, the Dennis Franz, who was in Hill Street Blues, and an African American kid. I don't know what he's, but that's it. Just 3 characters. That's it. Nobody else. And and it takes place in a junk shop, like an antique shop, and it's just so well written and acted. You know, obviously that, you know, Dustin Hoffman's salary alone, I'm sure was significant. But that's something that my point is, like, you can make a compelling piece of cinema, you know, if the writing and the acting and the performances are good. You know, it's it's all about the story. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
when we think about that's the funny thing about the movie business. You know, there are movies that have been made for nothing that have become worldwide bonanzas, like
Oh,
Blair
yeah.
Witch Project.
Mhm.
And then there's movies like Waterworld, you know, that it cost $200 million to make and were terrible. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many stars are in it, how much, you know, how big the special effects are. If your story isn't compelling, it's all still about the story for the writing.
The Australian short, there's no dialogue whatsoever. It's about the guy with his baby. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's
the zombie
invasion.
Yeah, I don't think there was one piece of dialogue.
It's a short film?
It's a short film. It was in a film festival. I think it was from Australia. It's hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
There and
because doesn't his baby become a zombie?
No.
Oh no, he saves.
It starts out and there's stuff written. It was a car accident. Stuff written in his arm, and there's certain things, and there's a bite mark on his arm, and he has this little tiny baby, and he puts it on his back, and like I said, there's no dialogue at all, and it's I think also as a parent watching it, but it's so well written and it's shot in such a way that if it doesn't provoke something, I don't know what, but
no.
It's a very cool concept, and one of my shorts I've watched a couple times, and I want to do something that it's all about the acting, it's all about how you film it and the angles and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we can eventually get to that once we, get released from all this.
Yeah. No, yeah, you touch upon what Gus was saying about Dustin Hoffman's salary. I mean, Dustin Hoffman probably did American Buffalo in his theater club. I don't know how old the script is, but he's probably very familiar with it. Maybe, he probably, because I'm sure actors like that, I don't know how old the play is, but, depending on how old he is, and he might still go to acting classes. I'm sure some of these actors still study, and he probably just was familiar with the play and said, I'll do this for scale. I'll do this for double scale.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
I'll take a major pay cut. Bruce Willis took a major pay cut for Pulp Fiction because because the script was that good. You have certain instances like that. And, just to touch upon David Mamet, without a doubt, my first David Mamet film I saw was The Spanish Prisoner with Campbell Scott and Steve Martin and Ed O'Neill. And by far, his American Buffalo, I think, was more about characters, but a lot of his films and scripts deal with con artists.
Yes.
House of Games that just finished also. And he's just so good at building this mystery and building this fake universe that the con artists are trying to build.
Yep.
And Red Belt just blew me away because it dealt with MMA, the whole competition, the whole big market, the big branding of MMA and UFC. Mm-hmm. I think it was kind of a jab at UFC a little bit, but they threw in a lot of con stuff, and there was this the big con going on throughout the whole movie. And the moral of the story is that the main character would not let up on his morals, would not let up on his integrity. He stood his ground on what he believed was right. In my opinion, one of his all-time best films, not to mention the show The Unit, which David Mamet created. But Mamet is
Glengarry Glen
Ross, another ultra low budget film. I mean, it deals with their office. There was the restaurant across the street. They did a couple of quick exteriors.
And you realize when you see a lot of his movies that, that's right, because it's all his theater background. A lot of those movies could be done on stage easily. Yeah,
exactly. Because he's writing a play, which is going to be, probably 3 different set changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you could leave if you could leave our viewers with one point, one bit of advice, maybe even one word, it doesn't have to just be one word, but if you could leave our viewers with one point, and I'll take one from each of you, what would that be?
I always say this business is, you gotta, if it's in you, you gotta do it, because it's one of these things that see, I think when a lot of people, the funny thing about well, I hate to use the term, but show business is a lot of times, if you're like a brilliant medical student, you're going to be a successful doctor. If you're a brilliant, attorney, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to be successful. You could be a brilliant actor and just never get the breaks, and then, you could be a mediocre actor and, it just happens for you. So I guess the moral of the story is show up and do it, and do something, because if you don't show up, you're definitely not going to get anywhere, And I've seen, I've seen instances of this myself. There's some people that I know that have been at it just a little bit of time and have managed to get roles alongside major actors. And then there's some other friends of mine in New York that have been, that went to these conservatories, and they're talented people, but for some reason it just hasn't happened. It's just one of those things, man. It's like, honestly, even myself, I mean, I started when I was almost 40, and I've been fortunate enough to be on major networks. I've been on Nickelodeon. I was on AMC, and I, honestly, I feel like I've gotten lucky a lot, but I wouldn't have gotten anything if I hadn't shown up and tried, And I think that's why, even like with the, and obviously we have other things that we do. We run a business and everything, but it's something that we continue to do because it's essential to who we are as people. You can't forget about that side of yourself. You have to keep doing it. And I'm hopeful that someday, something we do will catch notice. We'll get bigger. I believe that. I really do. And that's why I continue to work on projects, and I'm hopeful that somehow something takes root somewhere.
Oh, you reminded me of something. So when we first met and we started talking about acting and everything, and I've always told him, just who I am, and this is who I am. So, and it's interesting the different roles that I've had through the 18 years, and even working on the crew and everything. It's some days aren't always easy on set, as you know, but it's like, and then it's challenging. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Well, it's because I have such a passion for it, and it's not always going to be easy. But at the end of the day, like being on set, the last film that we did, just being on set, there's something amazing, and there's a connection with everybody else because everybody else is on that set for a reason.
It's funny. I kind of feel like that's where I belong.
Yeah, that's
it's whenever I'm on a set working. I don't care if it's just two people and a little camera outside in the street, filming it. I just feel like that's my natural habitat, if you will.
And so. We've had a lot of in-depth conversations, and the way he approaches his acting roles and the way I do is completely different. And but I think what I would have to say is, if you love film and you love working on film, do it. Like life's too short, and it's like we took this trip to Tampa, and it's like there's a last minute thing. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like we I'm hoping once this is all said and done, we get back to putting in for stuff, because we used to put in for Sirens, and there's another
Storyhouse.
Yes.
Storyhouse, yeah.
Storyhouse, and then there's Hot Stakes Media, and then there's a whole bunch of different places, and I'm in the different casting agency. I don't have an agent or anything, but they always put out casting calls and stuff. And it's like, we were putting in for a lot of stuff, and we were doing like, you know, video. And I'm like, okay, might have not been one, but it was a cool thing to do, you know. So yeah, it's you just have to be true to who you are. And if you love acting or think you want to try acting, just give it a shot. So.
Fantastic. Well, are there any plugs, links, socials you want to put out there before we close out?
You know, just again, I wanted to talk about the Viral Film Fest. Check it out on Infinity 9 Films Facebook page. There's information about how you can you know, put your film in there, or you can even just Google Infinity 9 Films. That'll bring you directly to our homepage. And then
Remnants, you know, it's coming out soon. Mark's the director. Absurd Productions. There's a webpage for both, and it's going to be having a film premiere in July at Waynesboro at a movie theater. So it should be a lot of fun. Jim Crut's part of that. So and hopefully, you know, we have a couple other things through Infinity 9, Bulletproof Cowboys, and it should be hopefully coming out soon, or hopefully somebody gets some attention. It was a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah.
So, but I'll have to shoot you. Do we have a clip?
Yeah,
actually, I'll
yeah.
shoot you a clip.
You can even, in fact, you can watch the. At least I believe you can watch the episode of Bulletproof Cowboys again on our page, on our Infinity 9 film page. So, but I can, yeah, we can send you that link. So.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here. So, Gus and Hillary, thanks again for joining me. Viewers out there, like, subscribe, share, comment, ring the bell for notifications, and check us out next time.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.